Everybody, we are here with Stephan Rick, and he is the, well, I guess definitely the director and co-writer of a new thriller called The Good Neighbor, and that just came out on June 17th. It's in theaters. And Stefan, how are you?
I'm good. I'm right now actually in Germany on a location scouting tour for a new project.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I thought you were locally based. There was like,
I am. Me and my family, we live in LA. I just flew out yesterday to Germany for this new project, and yeah, today we were driving through like East Germany to for a show that is about a murder that took place in 1993, right after the wall fell, and it's a six-part miniseries. Very interesting project about a ritualistic murder on a small girl
mhm.
with people who believe in Germanic gods and everything like that. So it's a really interesting project.
Wow, wow, fabulous. So what is it like? It's 8 hours ahead, right? So it's like 10 there right now. I can't
It's
tell.
11, yeah,
There we
11 p.m.
I was so close. I was so close.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, so let's talk about the film The Good Neighbor. Can you kind of give us a setup? Tell us about it.
So The Good Neighbor is actually a remake of my own debut feature film, Unter Nachbarn, which means Among Neighbors. And it's about two new neighbors, David and Robert. David just moves to Riga for a new job, and he meets Robert. They go out in a club, and on the way home, they run over a young woman on her bike. She dies. They both flee the scene and cover up the crime. And then, in the course of what's happening in the movie, the two neighbors, what started out as a friendship becomes more and more a threat to David.
Right. And I, I, some of your influences here obviously are Hitchcock. Uh, in telling kind of a strange and suspenseful story. Were there any other influences when you were developing this project?
So I really grew up a lot with the very all the psychological thrillers of the 80s and 90s, like The Vanishing or
So good. That one was great.
yeah, and that is
Oh,
also the remake and the original version and all
right.
these things, and also but also Single White Female, Indecent Proposal, all these very like thrillers that had a very small ensemble,
Hmm.
and the premise was always very clear, and it basically you knew where this when the friendship or the nanny moves in, it's not going to end well. So it's, and I always love those kind of films, and for one reason or the other, these I always felt like there's not enough of those films anymore, or they don't do them anymore. So, and that was one of the reasons that The Good Neighbor came into being.
Right. And you know what? I mean, I guess it's funny that you bring up The Vanishing because I had not even, that didn't come to mind. But yeah, you're right. And then there's Funny Games with Haneke.
Oh,
That one.
yeah.
So why do filmmakers do that, and why did you in particular revisit something that you did for the English speaking audience?
Yeah. No, that's a really good question. That's a question I always asked myself in the whole production process, also because the original movie was, we did it in 2011 on a very small budget. And why revisit this material? So one thing was actually that the original film went on a big festival circuit, around 30 festivals around the world. We started out in Shanghai, there at the film festival. In North America, we went to Montreal to the film festival, and then it was showed at the MoMA in New York, actually. And there, an American producer approached me and said, like, yo, this is such a wonderful movie. Have you ever thought about making a remake? And I was like, huh, interesting. Why not? And then I thought about all the experiences I had during the festival circuit. And for example, in China, it was the whole hit and run theme was very big at that time because there were a couple of cases that were in the newspapers about poor people being run over by, you know, some rich kid, and the rich kid never, you know, had to you know, take responsibility for it. And it started that people had cell phones where they could film stuff. So, and then there was a son of a politician there in China that got filmed by a lot of people. So it was a very emotional,
Very charged.
and they
Yeah.
is an emotional theme in China, just a hit and run theme. That was very interesting. And then in Montreal, it was much more like, you know, the rear window kind of aspect of the film that the audiences really liked and could relate to. So there were many aspects that in different audiences around the world would, you know, like about the movie. And yeah, and then I thought, okay, with all these reactions, to open up the story for a bigger audience would be an English language remake. So, and after that meeting there in New York, we started to work on that. So my German producers were also friends of mine. They gave me back the remake rights, and then I could go and run with it.
That's awesome. Now you leaned into the hit and run aspect, you know, especially that was happening when you produced the original. So what types of things or scenes or themes or anything like that did you kind of lean into more when you went back to the work?
Yeah. So what definitely, so there's a couple of things I wanted to, you know, work on. One was for example, the female character, Vanessa. She has now in this version definitely much more space than she has in the original. Her character is more determined, and the love story between her and, you know, David, who's kind of looking for redemption. That's why he's kind of being there for him, and he, you know, he feels like he can make something good by being, you know, by being the shoulder for her. Like as Robert always said, basically that was the idea. Robert always says the truth when he says, he when he finds out about that. I don't know if I can spoil that right now, but
well, try not to, but if you got it, you got it.
So there's things that were in that relationship that we did a little bit different than in the original. We always also made all the detectives, all them female, because it was interesting when I revisited also the material and did again research on the whole hit and run things and how it developed in the last years. It's when terrible things happen, it's usually mostly men fleeing the scene. So so we kind of thought, okay, just as a subtle undertone, it's basically all women around those two guys chasing them in one way or the other. So the detective, I think, was a male character in the old version. And one of the things that I also, was a reason, back to your first question, so why would I, want to do a film that I've done before? That I asked myself too. So I was like, okay, I need to have a different angle on also on the characters. That's why the choice for Jonathan Rhys Meyers was a very crucial one, because in the original movie, the antagonist Robert is much more like a toddler that gets more and more unhinged, while in this version he's I would say more adult, calculating, menacing kind of character. So he's actually a different character. And that was something where I thought, this might be just interesting to put it together, to put these two characters together and find out what's happening.
Right. And you bring up Robert and his character kind of switching to a more calculated person. There was something interesting to me that I wanted to ask you about. The setup of the film, this is not a spoiler, the setup of the film is that the two of them are out partying and they hit somebody that's on a bike, and Robert insists that they just flee the scene. And he basically, he infers that, you know, they're both guilty, or he says, yeah, we're both guilty. But then he also goes and starts using that as a way to control. And so my question is it about, for Robert, is it about not getting caught, or is it about the relationship for him?
It's for Robert, it's about, definitely, I would say, about the relationship. You know, the first decision to, you know, to really be able to, you know, have your friend is always, you know, like, you know, it's always in friendships. Usually you have bonding moments. Like most of the times it's good bonding moments. You go out in a
We really
party
hope they are.
and all of things. It's kind of like a weird, sick kind of bonding moment for him, because, and that's why he says at the beginning, oh, he always says us, it happened to us, and we are in that. And then he distances himself more and more, and it's more about what you've done. And you know, this is also sometimes that people really do that. You know, you're suddenly, no, we were in this together, and in, of course, much less severe situations, and that's like the first thing where he, you know, feels he has, you know, a chance to be, you know, somebody's best friend, his helper, and also, like, of course, in control.
And can you tell me why you tend to lean towards films that tell stories of accountability or redemption? What is it about those themes that really pull you in?
I think it is a really interesting theme in general, because and I feel now also the way, you know, we develop as a society, people take less and less responsibility for their actions. And that's actually just like a gut feeling. I you know, there's, you know, people put stuff online, or like just online comments and stuff. You know, people are so much more rude, hateful, and all these things when, you know, when you read on Facebook, on Twitter, you know, the way people interact with each other. But if you would confront them in person with that, usually people then back off much more and get to a normal kind of interaction. So I think that's a theme that's always interesting. And the other theme that is in there that does interest me, and I don't know if you've seen my my German film, The Dark Side of the Moon, which is with Jürgen Prochnow and Moritz Bleibtreu. It's about this M&A lawyer who takes with his new girlfriend a bunch of mushrooms, and he thinks it's magic mushrooms, but in these magic mushrooms there has been another mushroom, and this one makes him unhinged, and he kills the cat of his girlfriend, and then, you know, he starts to kill people. It's based on a very famous Swiss novel. And he kind of his inner beast, he can't control it anymore. So he's and then he starts to go on redemption. So I think it's more like this whole theme of the thin veil of civilization, maybe that I'm really interested in, and how easily, you know, people, like at the supermarket. I remember when the pandemic just started, like we're just flipping out and yelling at things, and you think all those things you see in zombie movies, or in, you know, in movies, you know, when the asteroid hits, that where I always thought, like, all those things, like where people would loot, you know, and just, I think it's much more real than we think. If really something bad would happen, we as a society, I think all those movies are right, we would probably go crazy.
yeah, definitely. And that's such a scary thought. There's such a thin line between, you know, normalcy and just complete chaos, I suppose.
Yeah, between us behaving normal and being nice to each other, and then being completely selfish and hateful, and basically, I think it's important. And maybe this is the message of the film, that you really need to take responsibility for your action. And David, in his gut, he knows it's wrong what he did, and he tries to call the police, but then it's, of course, nobody wants to go to jail or have that kind of burden on their shoulders for everyone to see. Look what you did there. So it's kind of an understandable thing. And at the same time, and that's what I like about Luke, how he approached his character, that he's kind of ambiguous, and then we also as viewers, I don't always agree with his actions, and like, what are you doing? Why are you you think you really can get redemption by getting the sister? So it's a complicated, and I hope it works in the movie. It's a complicated relationship between us, the audience, and also him as a character.
Well, yeah, it's very there are plenty of layers there, and as as we've mentioned before, very Hitchcockian. So and yeah, I mean, how was it working with Bruce Davison? Legendary.
That was just a dream come true. I have to say, he was just fantastic from the very first moment he came to. So we shot in Riga. So he came flying in from LA. So, and I think we had one day, where we could, choose all the costumes and make all those decisions. And then the very next day, he had already a very long shooting day. And I feel it right now, the jet lag from LA to Germany. You get tired very early on, and then you suddenly wake up at 2 a.m. in the middle of the night, and you're like, oh, where am I? And he was such a pro, and he was what I love about him is and that's just how he works as an actor. He brings a very natural, the way he approaches characters, it never feels like the delivery of the lines and all that. He always is very in character, and he knows exactly where he wants to be, and he's just a wonderful guy to hang out with. So it was really a great experience.
Very cool. Well, best of luck on this release of The Good Neighbor. And everybody, The Good Neighbor is out now and in theaters. Go ahead and check it out, and go ahead and check out Unter Nachbarn, what that inspired it, and check out the contrast.
I think it's available somewhere to watch for free. You get I think on IMDb, there's a link where you can then see it. So,
so what is everyone waiting for? Go watch the film, Stephan. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I hope
same here. Thanks for having me.
Get through your jet lag there, and come back when you have something else for us.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Take care.
Bye. Bye.